this is the separation of a mixture of solids pre-lab. And I wanted to point out that when you look at this one, you're going to see under materials, you can see I've got separation of a mixture, but then there's also summary of separation. So it looks like there's two different experiments, but I'll tell you that the summary of a separation, it's just math based on what you did in the separation of a mixture section. And it's not hard math, it's just some percentages. So don't think of that as being a whole other experiment. This one that we're looking at is the one that's the experiment part. Now this one has a law of lab supplies. You can see over on the right, I've got several things in there, right? So continue your lab notebook. There'll be those little bit of calculations in the next section, but most of this is going to be you taking pictures of your experiment as you go along. You are going to have to wait 24 hours or at least 12 hours for something to dry. And if you're doing this very last minute on Sunday night or some other night of the week, like, and it's really, really last minute, then you need to probably message your professor and be like, hey, can I turn in very first thing in the morning? The answer may be no. But that's how important it is on your numbers that it comes out correctly. All right, so remember when you use your scale, it goes to 2 decimals. Again, pictures, notice that we've got 3 pictures that are after waiting 24 hours. All right, so now we're going to begin at the procedure. So you're going to gather the bag containing the mixture of solids. So I've grabbed this thing. Again, it looks like instant oatmeal to me, but if you, it could be in a little plastic bag. We just never know how some of these chemicals are going to come packaged to you all. So just look for the one that says it's a mixture of solids. And so and don't forget to put on your safety glasses and your gloves. So it says place a small weigh boat on the scale, tare it. Oops, let me slide my scale down so it actually looks like I can sit on there. There we go. Okay, so I set that on the scale. And when you tare something after it's on the scale, that means that you make this number here 0. So you're going to put it on the scale and then you're going to push the tare button and then it'll be 0. So that's step 3. Step 4, carefully pour the contents of the bag. So here's our bag. We're going to pour it onto there, get it all in there. So it should be less than 10, more than 2. Let's just say that this is 3. And again, you got to have 1, 2, 3. So 3.12 grams, if that's what that made up. And it's like a brown mixture. It's got a lot of things in it. You can kind of actually see some of it. All right, so now gather a white piece of paper. Oh, and don't forget to record that data in data table 1. I didn't see that. So data table 1. So that's this top number here, mixture of solids, mass. Now you're going to get your white piece of paper right there, and you're going to pour, you don't have to have it folded yet, but you're going to pour all of your contents on it. Then you're going to get a second piece, and you're going to cut it into a 10 meter square, and you're going to place this on the scale to get the mass of this. Now basically what this is going to work as, in all honesty, is weigh paper. I don't know why they didn't send extra weigh papers with you, but they've only got so many of these aluminum containers in your kit, and so they basically want you to have a little piece of paper. So 1, 2, 3, 4-ish for each of the parts before you put it on your scale. And you're going to make sure to record the mass in the data table of that paper. So it's going to go right there. Massive paper is the second block down. So the first step right here is that you're going to get that magnetic bar, and your mixture has 4 different things in it. One of the things in it is something that's magnetic. So you're going to take your hand and you're going to get your magnet right here, and you're going to put a piece of plastic wrap. So we're going to get some of this, and it's going to go around. The instructions say to put it around your ruler, but if you put it around one hand and then you hold the ruler with your hand, you're going to probably have a much easier time trying to get the magnet pieces off the saran wrap. And I need to be clear on this, that the saran wrap or plastic, it needs to go around both parts of that. And so you can hold this part and that's fine, but you need to make sure that the saran wrap goes around it. And then you're going to take it to your pile of liquids right here. You're going to get it really close, and you probably want to, make sure that you've got a good handle on that magnet, because if you don't have this plastic wrap around right there, it will stick the magnet. It's almost like impossible to get it off. So everything magnetic is right there, and you're going to, get it all in the surface of the mixture. You're going to do the best you can. They've got a little picture over there. And you're going to put them all on the scale to obtain the mass of the paper in the filings. So that paper that you cut up right here, you only need one, not all the ones I drew. But that paper you cut up, that's where you're going to put your iron filings. So you're going to have like all these little pieces of iron all stuck in there. And when you bring it over here to the paper, all you have to do is keep a hold on the plastic wrap, but just move the magnet part away from your hand and from the beaker. Whoops, I'm trying to get it so I can get it away. And as soon as you get a certain distance away, all of the little shavings will fall into the container. I'm sorry, onto the paper. So just do it carefully. Try not to lose any. Once you have them all on there, then I draw some so it looks like they're all, there you go, on there. Then you're going to get this mass here, and you're going to be able to fill in some more of the data table. So now you can fill up the mass of the paper plus the iron filings, and when you subtract that number from this one from this one, then you're going to get the mass of your iron filings. All right, so you've got one of the four things separated, the magnetic thing. So now it comes on to the next section. So this is sand, and I'm sure you've been to the beach. You know that sand does not dissolve in water. So, and in fact, you probably have held water with sand in it in your hands, and the water dribbles out and the sand stays in your hand. This is kind of the same idea, or it's like a coffee filter. So you're basically going to filter sand from the mixture. So anyways, all right, so we are right here. We've got a 100 milliliter beaker, and I happen to already have one drawn like as though it's on the stand. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get the beaker. I'm going to just draw like a little beaker here. So here's a beaker, and this is a 100 milliliter beaker. And so whatever is left, remember you had your little pile and you got your iron out. So whatever's left of it, you're going to put it in here. So it's still going to be a little pile of brown stuff in there. And that was step 14. And step 15, you're going to add, here's your distilled water. You're going to need about, and this is not an exact thing, so just about in your graduated cylinder, do about 50 mils. You're going to add it to this mixture, and you're going to get your stirring rod, and you're going to stir, 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 stir. Definitely make sure that you stir, okay? I should have made it look like there was water in it. Here we go. Now we've got some water. And you're stirring it up. So all stirred up. At some point, you're going to be done with stirring, and you actually are going to heat up the water before you filter it, because there's one thing that only dissolves in hot, well, there's two things that dissolve in hot water, but only one of those two things dissolve in cold. So you have three things in there. One is sand, and it won't dissolve in water at all. But then you have a salt, and you also have this other chemical. It's like an acid kind of a chemical. And so one of the two will stay dissolved at a high temperature and one won't. So what you want is for two things to be dissolved and one thing not to be dissolved, because you're going to filter it. So you're going to take that mixture and you're going to put it on a burner. And you're going to heat it up, which will make both of the other things be dissolved, but the sand doesn't ever dissolve. So just when it begins to boil, and this is the part where you need to be really careful, read through the steps very carefully. Don't touch the stand or the beaker. They might be hot, but as soon as it starts to boil, you'll slide the canister out, and it's just like in the picture on the left. You're going to smother the flame. You need an oven mitt because you're going to pick it up while it's quite hot, and you're going to get your coffee cup, and they just have a plastic looking cup right there, but you're going to get your coffee cup, and this part's kind of tricky. You're going to get your stirring rod, and you're just basically going to use the stirring rod as like something that kind of holds the sand in place, and just do the best you can with this. But we're going to kind of put it across the lip of the beaker. Oops. So I'm going to grab this beaker here. Oops, it didn't come over with the beaker itself. So here's our beaker. And we're going to pour it just like it's showing in that picture. And again, try really hard to be careful. Obviously, this is not a perfect science here. And then what's going to happen when you're done is that all of the water and dissolved stuff will be here. But this is the sand, and the sand won't be. It'll stay in the beaker. And so they just call that decanting. And then this beaker of stuff, you're just going to let it dry. You can rinse it with a smidgen of water, but you don't really need to rinse it very much with water. So now you're going to let this one sit off to the side. And move that over. I didn't mean to have my glass stirring rod attached to it. So this is just set off the side. You should label this. I've had students say that their parents threw stuff away on them, so label it and just make a note that how long you need to let it dry. All right, so the next part is that we are going to have to separate the two things that one of them dissolves in water at a high temperature but not a low temperature. So look at step 26. So you're just going to get like, you're going to create an ice bath by placing ice cubes and water into a bowl. So you're going to need a bowl. You're going to get your ice cubes. You can put them in the bath. You can put liquid in it, some water in it. So once it's nice and cold, you're going to carefully put the whole coffee cup in there. You got to do it really carefully so the coffee cup doesn't tip over. Notice that we're not pouring it in there, right? We're keeping it in there. So we're setting it in there. And if you'll notice on step 27, it says 5 minutes. Now, what I've heard and what I've seen is that it'll start doing solid really fast. And then at some point, it'll kind of stick to the sides of the coffee cup, and it makes it really hard to get the solid out. So almost immediately, you may want to take your stirring rod, and you may want to actually mess with it and get it so that you're maybe kind of keep moving things around in there to try to help so that it doesn't get stuck to the side a lot over that time frame. You just kind of break it up. I don't know why I can't get it to tilt, but imagine that, there we go, that's upright, and just kind of scrape around the sides to help with that. And again, you're going to let that be in there for about 5 minutes. While it's in the ice bath, the round filter paper, which this should have come in your kit, it's just going to be like a little round piece of paper. They're going to make a little thing so that it looks like a cone. The picture's on the side. We also have a YouTube video you can watch if you aren't sure about it. And you're going to do your filter paper. You need to actually put it on the scale first to get the measurement of it. So you'll get this, and it says that in the steps. So put that on there, get that measurement. Then you're going to fold it up, and you're going to get your funnel. You move this on down, and you're going to get a new beaker out, a new 100 milliliter beaker out. So this one's a fresh, clean one. And your filter paper, you're going to have folded it into that kind of triangular shape. So it should kind of fit and be kind of curved but open at the top, and it should fit right in there. So it's kind of like a coffee filter. We're trying to get the liquid through. So again, this container right here has been in the ice bath for a while, and so what you're going to be seeing is some little pieces of solid coming out. They're going to be like colorless or whatever. Then you're going to bring this over here and you're going to pour it, and you want to pour it in a way so that the hold on, there we go. So that as it's going in, go slow because this filter can get filled fast. So the little circles stay on the top of the filter, and then the liquid goes on through to this part again in here. And then your coffee cup will be empty. And again, this is kind of tricky to do because sometimes it sticks to the side. Just try, again, that stirring trick early on to keep it from sticking to the side. All right, so now you have your filter paper. Remember, you've got this thing over here drying. Now you've got your filter paper. I'm going to kind of leave it like that. And now you've got some things on the filter paper. You're going to save that. And we're going to work with the remainder liquid. And all you're going to do with that remainder liquid is, let me kind of erase this and bring this down. You're going to put it on this, and you're going to heat all the water away. And you probably still should let this sit overnight, but after you get all the water away, there's just going to be like, in your other beaker, there's going to just be like crusty looking stuff, but that's that's salt that's going to be stuck in there. So there'll be some salt in there. And again, you let it cool, let the rest of the water evaporate. That could take overnight. When you're done, then and only then are you going to go ahead and get the final masses of this. Oops. Well, this one. And also of this. So you can get those final masses. And once you get that, if I pull up this data table, that number will go in there for mass of sand, and then it'll go in for benzoic acid, and then the mass of the salt. And again, those three are when they are dry. And actually, it's going to go in the middle section because then you're going to subtract to get the mass of the sand, the mass of the acid, and the mass of salt. So the second part is just doing your percentages, and you're just going to do your mass of each that you've already gotten, and you're just going to figure out what they are of the total. So let's say that every single one of them I got back 5, 5, 5, and 5. So that's for the iron, the salt, the acid, and the sand. So if I just need each percentage, it'll just be 0.5 over 3.12 times 100 because that's my original. And then I'll have my percent. So I hope that kind of makes sense. This one just has a lot of involvement where you don't lose something along the way. So just be really careful not to break something or move something while it's too hot. Make sure you've got a mitt that has a little bit of grippiness to it, like an oven mitt that's a little grippy.